In the ancient kingdom of Liang, where lanterns floated like fallen stars and temple bells echoed through misty mountains, there lived a young martial arts master whose sword was as sharp as his heart was gentle. He had spent 15 years training under the strict discipline of the Imperial Academy, rising to become the youngest instructor in their long history. His students feared him, his peers respected him, but inside he carried a loneliness that no amount of honor could fill. One autumn morning, when the maple leaves painted the courtyard crimson, a new student arrived at the academy gates. She wasn't like the others, those noble sons and ambitious warriors. She was different, softer somehow, yet there was a fire in her eyes that spoke of determination stronger than steel. She had disguised herself as a boy to enter the academy, cutting her long hair and binding her chest, all to learn the forbidden arts that were denied to women in those ancient times. The master noticed her immediately, though he said nothing. There was something in the way she moved, the way she held the practice sword, that drew his attention. He assigned her the hardest drills, the most grueling exercises, not out of cruelty, but because he sensed she could handle them. And she did, every single time, never complaining, never backing down, even when her hands bled and her legs trembled with exhaustion. Weeks turned into months, and the master found himself watching her more often than he should. During meditation sessions, his mind would wander to her presence in the hall. During evening practices, he would linger just to see her perfect a technique. It was wrong, he knew. A master should never look at his student this way. But the heart, as they say, follows no rules written by men. One night, during the Lantern Festival, when the entire academy was celebrating and wine flowed freely, she slipped away to the bamboo grove behind the training grounds. He followed, telling himself he was merely ensuring her safety. She was practicing a sword form in the moonlight, her movements graceful and precise, completely lost in the rhythm of the blade. When she finally stopped, breathing heavily, she found him standing there in the shadows. Their eyes met, and in that moment everything changed. No words were needed. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. She lowered her sword slowly, and he stepped forward, closer than a master should ever stand to his student. The wind rustled through the bamboo, carrying with it the sweet scent of night-blooming flowers and the distant sound of festival music. But fate, as it often does in tales of forbidden love, had cruel plans. The academy's grand master, a stern, old warrior who had dedicated his entire life to tradition and discipline, discovered the secret, not just the secret of their growing affection, but her secret too, the one she had guarded so carefully. A woman in the academy was sacrilege. They said, a master falling for his student was betrayal of the highest order. The punishment was swift and merciless. She was to be expelled and sent to a remote temple in the mountains, where she would spend the rest of her days in isolation, forbidden from ever practicing martial arts again. He was to be stripped of his title and banished from the kingdom. His name erased from the academy's records as if he had never existed. On the night before their separation, they met one last time in that same bamboo grove. The moon was hidden behind dark clouds, as if the heavens themselves mourned what was to come. She told him of her childhood dream, how she had watched her brother train and yearned to hold a sword, how she had promised herself she would become strong enough to protect those she loved. He told her of his own loneliness, how teaching had filled his days but never his heart, until she arrived and changed everything. They made a vow that night, a promise whispered to the wind and the bamboo and the sleeping stars. No matter how far apart they were, no matter how many years passed, they would find each other again. Love, true love, could not be bound by distance or time or the cruel edicts of old men who had forgotten what it meant to feel. As dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, they were torn apart. She was led away in chains, her head held high despite the tears streaming down her face. He was escorted to the kingdom's border, given nothing but the clothes on his back and a broken sword as a reminder of all he had lost. But this is not where the story ends. In the years that followed, he wandered the land, taking on bandits and protecting villages, building a reputation as a swordsman without equal. She, meanwhile, escaped from her temple prison with the help of sympathetic monks who recognized her pure heart. She too wandered, helping the poor and the helpless, her skills growing sharper with each passing season. 10 years to the day after their separation, during another lantern festival, in a small village market crowded with celebration, they saw each other across a sea of glowing lights. Time had changed them, aged them, scarred them, but their eyes recognized what their hearts had never forgotten. They walked toward each other slowly, as if moving through a dream, afraid that one wrong step would shatter the moment. When they finally stood face to face, when his hand finally touched her cheek and her fingers finally grasped his, the world around them fell away. The music, the laughter, the lanterns floating up to the sky, all of it became distant background to the only truth that mattered. They had found each other again, just as they had promised, and this time no one would tear them apart.